Imagine for a moment that you are a woman who has experienced relationships where everything seemed right. Good conversations, mutual attraction, and even shared projects. But suddenly, he emotionally disappears. Or worse, he stays, but doesn't fully remain. And then you ask yourself, what really makes a man fall in love? What triggers a deep connection in him that goes beyond desire or habit? Most women believe that love arises from effort, continuous care, proving attention, and dedication. And while all of that has its place, what many don't realize, and here Carl Jung offers a powerful key, is that falling in love doesn't happen on the surface, but in the unconscious. What stirs deep love in a man is not always visible. It's not in what you do or say, but in what you represent to him without you even knowing it. It's that silent energy that emanates from you when you stop trying to please him, when you are simply yourself. Often, it's when you let go of the need to be chosen, you leave a deep impact on his mind. It's not magic, but psychology. Jung called this archetypal projection. It's the phenomenon where the man doesn't fall in love with you as you are, but with what you awaken in his inner world. Perhaps he never told you this, but there was a moment when he looked at you and saw something bigger than just a woman. He saw a symbol, an energy, something that made him face himself while simultaneously attracting him. Have you ever felt that you were unforgettable to someone without doing anything extraordinary? Have you ever experienced someone coming back to find you after a long time for no clear reason? Perhaps it wasn't you who attracted him, but what you did to him. If you've experienced something like this, I'd be happy if you shared it in the comments, because this type of experience often reveals much of what we perceive. The great paradox is that men don't fall in love with what they understand, but with what they can't fully comprehend. They fall in love with what they can't control, with what challenges their mental structures. And when a woman lives from her truth, when she doesn't betray herself out of fear of losing him, something shifts. Her energy becomes magnetic, even if she isn't trying to attract attention. But many women, instead of trusting that authenticity, get lost in trying to fit in, trying to be what they think he needs. And this is where the connection starts to die, not because love is lost, but because the spark born from mystery has been extinguished. Jung said that what we suppress turns into destiny, and when a woman suppresses her essence, her energy stops interacting with the spirit of the other. What's most intriguing is that many men don't even understand why they think about her so much, why they dream about her, why even after they left, her image keeps echoing in their minds. When a woman embodies, unknowingly, an archetypal model they haven't yet integrated within themselves, she becomes a mirror, and no one forgets a mirror that made them see themselves from the inside for the first time. There's something Carl Jung clearly explained that is almost poetic. We don't love people for who they are, but for what they represent to us. And when a woman embodies, unintentionally, a powerful symbol of the male unconscious, she stirs in him an attraction that goes beyond physical desire. It's an attraction that touches ancient strings, activating dormant emotional memories. It's not a coincidence, but a psychological fate. A man may meet many women throughout his life. Some will make him happy, some will accompany him through difficult times. Some will even share years by his side. But there is one, only one, who stays in silence, echoing. And she's not always the most beautiful or the most perfect. She's often the one who didn't try to be that way. She's the one who appeared with a mix of calm and certainty, who didn't need external validation, who chose herself instead of seeking to please him without guilt. This woman, unknowingly, becomes a symbolic figure, an embodiment of the anima, the feminine aspect of the unconscious, that hasn't yet been integrated. And when she appears in his life, something happens inside him. But here comes the most curious part. Many women don't notice when they are in this role. They don't realize the impact they make because they aren't doing anything special. They're just being. They resonate in authenticity, connected to their essence. And that authenticity is deeply disruptive to a man who has lived relationships where emotional bonds were shallow or built on expectations. In that moment, he doesn't fall in love with her words or her body. He falls in love with what she reflects to him, that part of himself that he hasn't discovered yet, but suddenly begins to feel. Of course, that may scare him, because deep love is not comfortable. It's transformative, forcing him to look inward. This is why some men, the moment they start feeling something real, pull away, not because they don't care, but because something inside them tells them that this woman is not like the others. And if they stay, they will have to change, surrender, and open up to a part of their soul that has been asleep, and often they are not ready for that. Because the image this woman evokes is intense, very alive. They can't control it, they can't label it, so they run away. But they are not running from her. They are running from what they feel inside themselves. This is why it's so important for a woman not to take this as rejection. If you have distanced yourself from someone without understanding why his distance hurt you so much, perhaps it wasn't unreciprocated love. Perhaps you were the mirror he couldn't bear to see his reflection in. Tell me, have you ever felt that someone pulled away from you not because of what you did, but because of what you represented? Was it hard for you to understand that? Share with me in the comments, because this experience could help many people who are feeling the same way right now. When a woman stops seeking love and starts living with herself, something shifts in her energy. It's not about arrogance or indifference, but rather a quiet, still strength that communicates without words. I belong to myself. And this, for the male unconscious, is a strong but puzzling invitation. Carl Jung said that what we don't integrate into ourselves, we seek in others. So when a man meets a woman who embodies qualities he hasn't developed yet, like emotional freedom, intuition, and depth, something awakens inside him, and it's not always comfortable. Sometimes what he feels first is not attraction, but discomfort. Why? Because she reflects to him an emptiness, an internal space he's avoided confronting throughout his life. Perhaps throughout his life, he sought relationships where he was the protector, the strong one, the one who controlled the situation. But now, in front of this woman who doesn't need to be saved, who doesn't idolize him, who doesn't rush for his attention, he feels helpless. And here, many times, obsession begins, not with her as a person, but with restoring that false sense of control that her presence has destroyed. He may not consciously know this, but he is searching for something else, not for winning her back, but for fixing his broken identity. This explains why some men, after losing a woman like this, can't fully let go of her. Months or even years may pass, and they still carry her memory like a scar. Not because they haven't gotten over her, but because she represents a pivotal moment in their emotional life, something before her and something entirely different after her. The problem is that many men don't know how to deal with this emotional void because they haven't learned to look inward or take responsibility for their wounds. So, they search for ways to fill this void from the outside, like entering new relationships, working more, or distracting themselves. But nothing compensates for what she left, because what disappeared wasn't a person, but an opportunity for transformation. And here comes the point that many don't see. That woman is unforgettable, not because she was perfect, but because she was real. She didn't need to stay when she felt that staying would mean betraying herself. She didn't shout or beg. She simply closed the door with dignity. And this rare and courageous act leaves a deep mark on a man's soul, like an unforgettable lesson. Have you ever felt that your dignity was interpreted as cruelty? Or that your silence was understood as neglect, when in fact it was a way to honor yourself? If you've gone through a similar experience, share it with us in the comments. Your experience may be helpful to others who are going through something similar right now. When a woman stops searching for love and starts discovering herself, something shifts in her energy. It's not about pride or indifference, but a quiet, still power that simply announces, I belong to myself. For the male unconscious, this is a powerful and perplexing invitation. Carl Jung said that what we don't integrate within ourselves, we seek in others. So when a man meets a woman who embodies qualities he hasn't developed yet, like emotional freedom, intuition, and depth, something awakens inside him, and it's often uncomfortable at first. He may feel discomfort instead of attraction, because the woman reflects an internal emptiness that he has been avoiding confronting throughout his life. Perhaps, throughout his life, he chased relationships where he was the protector, the strong one, the controller. But now, in front of this woman who doesn't need rescuing, who doesn't idolize him, he feels helpless. And this is where obsession often starts, not with her as an individual, but with the need to restore the sense of control that her presence has shattered. He is not consciously aware of this, but in truth, he's not searching for her return. He's searching for the repair of his broken identity. This explains why some men, after losing a woman like this, cannot fully let go of her. Months or even years may pass, and they still carry her memory like a scar. Not because they haven't gotten over her, but because she represents a pivotal moment in their emotional life. Something before her and something entirely different after her. But what they lost wasn't a person. It was an opportunity for transformation. This woman wasn't unforgettable because she was perfect, but because she was authentic. She left when she realized that staying would mean betraying herself. She didn't scream, didn't beg, but simply closed the door with dignity. And this action left an unforgettable mark on his soul, as if it were a deep lesson. Have you ever felt that your dignity was interpreted as cruelty? Or that your silence was misunderstood as indifference, when in fact it was a way of honoring yourself? If you've experienced this, share your story in the comments. Your experience may help others who are going through something similar right now. When a woman stops seeking love and starts being with herself, something in her energy changes. It's not about pride or indifference, but a quiet power that simply announces, "I belong to myself." This is a strong and perplexing invitation for the male unconscious. Stability came to show him how unstable his inner world was. And this truth, no matter how harsh, is the beginning of awakening. Many men, when they reach this point, resist. They want to return to their previous state. They want to forget, to extinguish, to bury. But that doesn't work. Once the soul is touched, there's no going back. This is why, amidst this suffering, some decide to do something different, to stop, to breathe, to look inward. They begin to read, remember, ask themselves about their childhood, about their past relationships, about the patterns they repeated unconsciously. They begin to question their need for external validation, their fear of abandonment, and their difficulty in loving without control. Over time, they begin to understand. She wasn't the problem. It was the distorted image they projected onto her. This moment is crucial because here lies the possibility of integration, stopping the search outside for something that can only be built within ourselves. Over time, the wounds begin to heal, not through denial, but through acceptance, through the humble acknowledgement that love is more than just possession. And you, who are watching this, perhaps you've been there too. Perhaps you felt that your presence was misunderstood or that your departure was seen as cruelty, when in fact it was your soul choosing peace. If you acknowledge that, share it in the comments. Your truth may be the reflection someone else needs today. Over time, something changes. Not loudly or through a major external event, but in silence. It's as if something new began to be born inside him. He no longer seeks that woman in other people. He no longer chases her in memories. Now, he begins to understand what really happened. Carl Jung said that the process of individuation begins when we stop identifying ourselves through our masks, and that's exactly what happened. He stopped seeing himself as the captivated one who always had control. He began to see his cracks, and instead of being frightened by them, those cracks began to turn into his most human parts. The woman who left quietly, who didn't ask for anything, who didn't create scenes, now appears to him differently in his mind. She is no longer the unreachable woman. She is the woman who, without intending to, showed him the value of his inner world. It's no longer about getting her back, but about understanding what she caused. And what she caused wasn't desire, but existence, consciousness, an invitation to return to himself. Because what attracted him wasn't her silence, but what that silence reflected. A woman who didn't need to validate herself to feel complete. A woman who wasn't willing to stay at the expense of her inner peace. In a culture where men are taught that love means attachment or control, this image of a woman who loves from a place of freedom represents an inner revolution. She cannot be manipulated, she cannot be kept, she can only be honored. And this creates a transformation deep within them. They start treating themselves differently, listening to themselves more, stopping the search for love as if it were a search for salvation. It's no longer about finding someone who chooses them despite their emptiness, but about becoming someone who chooses themselves honestly. And from there, building real relationships. In that moment, her image becomes softer. She no longer hurts him as before. Now she is a bright memory, almost sacred, because she was the one who ignited his soul, not to stay, but to show him the way. And if you are the woman who, one day, felt that your way of loving was misunderstood, if you chose to leave because staying meant betraying yourself, I want you to know something. This kind of decision is unforgettable. Maybe it wasn't said to you. Maybe he didn't fully understand it. But you planted something, and that seed, even if it grew in silence, changed lives. Have you ever felt that your energy left an impact on someone, even if you didn't intend it? Have you ever felt that your departure was more significant than any imposed stay? If so, share your experience in the comments. Your story might spark the way for someone else. There is a point where obsession gives way to something deeper, understanding. It's no longer just the need for her presence nearby, but the recognition that, without knowing it, she was a turning point. A marker of before and after. Not for what she said, but for what she was and how she left. Carl Jung said that what deeply affects us remains inside us as a symbol, and the symbol is not erased. It doesn't need to be present to continue working. This is how it is with her. She is no longer here, but her energy is still alive, like a melody that continues to resonate after it has ended. He now begins to see more clearly, understanding that all along he had been searching for relationships where he felt validated, important, necessary. But with this woman, it was different. There was no need, no struggle. There was only choice, and that broke him because he was never taught to love from a place of freedom. He was never taught that he could be vulnerable without losing his dignity, that he could be unnecessary and still love deeply. She did that, not with words, but with her existence, and also with her absence. And this is where true transformation arises. He no longer seeks women to fill his emptiness. He no longer tries to fix how he feels through new stories. He now knows that love isn't something to ask for or earn, but something to share, from a place of peace, not from a place of loss. The most beautiful part of this moment is that she no longer needs to do anything. She doesn't need to return. She doesn't need to explain herself. She doesn't need to prove anything. Her role has already been fulfilled. She was the trigger, the beacon, the mirror. Her energy did what it needed to do. It awakened him. If any part of this story resonates with you, share it in the comments below. Sometimes sharing what we experience is the quietest and most powerful way to heal. In this new phase, he no longer runs from himself. He now understands that everything he was looking for in her, that calm, that depth, that freedom, he can also build inside himself. Maybe not immediately, maybe not without effort, but with every conscious decision, he gets closer to his truth. And interestingly, he no longer needs to find it in someone else, because now, when he remembers her passing through his life, he doesn't do this with longing, but with gratitude, because she, without knowing, showed him that the truest love is not about staying, but about leaving an impact. And so, in the place that was once occupied by emptiness, there is now understanding. It no longer hurts him as it once did. There are no more worries about answers. There is a new way of looking at life, calmer, more honest, more awake. Because when a man crosses the threshold of himself, he cannot return to love in the same way. Carl Jung once said that what we accept in ourselves changes us, and this is exactly what happened. This man, who needed to feel chosen to know his value, now understands that his value doesn't lie in being desired, but in being truthful. He no longer searches from a place of emotional poverty. He loves from a place of completeness. The image of her, the woman who didn't beg, who didn't stay where she wasn't seen, is no longer a wound, but a compass. Her memory, which once pained him, now shines. Because it was not a loss, but a message, a lesson wrapped in presence and then absence. What seemed like a goodbye was in fact the beginning of everything. That love, which didn't end with promises or explanations, made room for something much bigger. Transformation, not in the relationship, but in the soul. Why? Because when someone touches your essence, it doesn't matter if they stayed or left. What matters is what they awaken in you. And you, the woman on the other side of this story, maybe you never knew the real impact your energy left. Maybe you thought you left unnoticed. But I want you to remember this. When you love from a place of awareness, of dignity, of freedom, you always leave an impact. Not in the other's ego, but in their soul, and that remains. And you, the man who has gone through this process, maybe now you understand that what you lost was not her, but a part of you that you hadn't embraced yet. And maybe, just maybe, her leaving wasn't the end, but the door that led you back to yourself. I want to invite you to leave a comment about what this video stirred within you. Maybe you lived a similar story. Maybe you are the woman who knew how to let go at the right time. Maybe you are the man who began to wake up. Whatever your experience, your voice could be the mirror someone else needs today. And if this message resonated with you, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and share this video with someone ready to love from a different place. Don't leave just yet, because the next video we'll release might help you understand more about the hidden dynamics that affect your relationships. There, we will continue this journey of self-discovery with Jung as our guide, and you as the hero. Remember this: what is real doesn't need to be chased, it just needs to be lived. And what is lived with spirit is never forgotten. See you soon, and until then, keep returning to yourself. Infinite thanks.